Okay, good afternoon, everyone. This is the Antelope Coalition meeting. We are going to begin our business now. The first order of business will be a vote on the IBC Milestone number 7 payment release.
So this is a milestone for one of the supporting infrastructure pieces. It's called what we call Lightproof DB. This has been reviewed earlier this week by Jesse and the EOS team. So big shout out to Jesse and to the TELOS, EOS and TELOS teams for performing this review. I believe, Jesse, you found everything satisfactory and you're actually running it now. So that gives us also another infrastructure provider running the Lightproof DB and IBC Proof server. So thanks for doing that.
So if no other questions, Eve, how do you vote?
I'm not sure. Who do we have on this call? Sorry, my bad. Yes, I vote, yes, sorry. I was double checking which one that was, which milestone that was. Yes, I'm good with that.
Okay, Lucas?
That's a yes.
And Jesse?
Yes.
Okay, I think that the motion passes because UX abstains. Is that correct?
This is correct, yeah.
Okay, very good.
Yeah, it passes anyway.
Right. I think we just move that up over to done, or I'm going to do that. Whether that's right or wrong, Jeff will inform me later, because it just, at that point, someone else is going to work on processing the payment. Eve, is there someone I need to notify, or is there something that Jeff would normally notify to get that payment released?
Yeah, that would be make sure that Jeff knows, and then he'll run the process. I think that's good. Because yes, there's going to be Adam in there, but there's also John in there. There's a few people that'll be needed in this.
Okay, I'm letting him know now. All right, now the Antelope IBC IO portal. No data inside here, but
I'll speak to this. And it's quite timely. So we just recorded it at Around the Block podcast this morning, and I mentioned this, that I did bring this up today. We've been receiving a lot of applications for IBC related grant applications, funding, etc. And some of them have been approved, not released yet, but there's one, for example, in the grant framework that I mentioned in the call that'll be released, or the show that we just recorded. This one in particular came directly to me, so it didn't go through a grant framework. This particular idea comes from EOS, the block producer, and we started working with them on a few ideas in the past. So through our grant framework, they were one of the first recipients. They worked on, now I forget the name, it's irrelevant. We worked with them for a while, and we've been trying to get them involved more and more, as similar to what we're doing within the coalition, finding other partners that can take on workloads. They looked into taking on some of the work that was an API, or no, Wallet plus Blue Paper. Aaron's on the call, so I don't recall which item there, but ultimately we decided that it was likely not a right fit. We then started looking into, could they potentially take on some of that RFP work that we talked about before, of drafting RFPs, of having people that understand the software stack very well, but also have the technical writing capability to draft RFPs. Long story short, likely not a right fit there as well. So this ended up with this particular idea. And so they've pitched and they've proposed something, and I'm just going to try to pull it up. And basically just pissed this through Telegram right now. And so if relevant, then I'll post it in the core. But what they were pitching was, should this go through the grant framework, or should this go through, for example, an RFP for the coalition? Realistically, this should be at the coalition level because it benefits everybody. It's really for IBC as a whole. And it's to really take what Noman and his team have done in terms of the portal, the ibc.uxnetwork.io, and expand on that to have something less basic. Not to say that what the UX team has done is not good, but to really expand on that product and really open that up. And so they've got a proposal for us that I said that we'd review. Clearly, we had not prioritized this. This is not something we had looked at. This is not something that was in the pipeline, but I think it was worthwhile bringing here. If it's not relevant for the coalition, although I believe it is, and really that's where the funding should come from, then the guidance to them will be to apply to the grant framework directly. I don't know what whether that'll pass or not or whatever, because it really is for everybody else. What I can do, because obviously you're all going blind at this, I'm somewhat blind at this too. This just came, I believe it was yesterday or the day before. I can post what that is in our channel, and then we can look at whether or not we think it would be something we're interested in. If it's something we're interested in as a coalition, it doesn't mean that we necessarily assign to them or whatnot, but then maybe we actually write an RFP out for this, or maybe we just directly assign to them. In terms of funding requests, they've got 3 different project scopes, and I'll just forward it right now just so that everybody sees. And I have no issues if this is posted in here too, and I've confirmed with them they're good with that as well. So there's no secrets or anything like that. I just posted in the core chat right now. So there's a list of 9 functions or 9 features that portal would encompass. And they would basically expand on that. The funding requests, give or take, just open that up as well, just so it positions it. For all of the features that you see there, based on existing public proof servers, that is the lightest cost. So basically they're leveraging what, if I'm not mistaken, Guillaume, what you already have, because the proof servers are already there. So they wouldn't be starting from, replaying everything from scratch. They're, give or take, approximately asking for $53,000. This is very high level. If we were to go through an RFP, they would need to do more work into that. $5,300 plus an ongoing infrastructure management cost of $1,700 per month. So quite minimal in the grand scheme of things. If they were to take this on,
Sorry, Yves, I believe I heard you say 53,000 and 5,300.
$53,000 for the development and setup, $1,700, and I'll forward this in the channel too as well, and $1,700 monthly for the maintenance. Again, this is all, they're just approximate what they're doing right now, because they don't even know, should they apply for funding through the coalition or through EOS directly grant framework. The second one would be all the features that I've just forwarded based on setting up, maintaining proof infrastructure for all coalition chains, with partial history since IBC activation. So they would do that for every chain. They would replay or start, I guess, the proof servers for all 4 chains. That would double the cost of development, so roughly $100,000, with a much larger ongoing infrastructure management cost of $12,400 per month. And then the final option that they're kind of costing out would be including all the features based on setting up and maintaining proof infrastructure for all coalition chains with full history from block 1. That would be slightly more expensive at $123,000 with a roughly $21,000 ongoing cost. So the reason why I'm bringing this up, and obviously to talk about this is it's being recorded and stuff, is do we want to entertain this? Is this something we want them to go back towards? Is this something we're even slightly interested in, or should we say we're not interested, thank you very much, and then we'll see whether or not any of our respected chains want to pick this up, whether or not they apply for the grant framework for EOS or either of your grant frameworks or whatever it may be. And basically that's why I'm bringing it up. I said I'd bring it up to everybody, and so now it's there.
If I may, a few comments on this. So I think phase 1 of what they're proposing, or the smallest package, that to me looks very reasonable. I think there's very good value for what we would be paying. For the other 2 phases, I think they might not be aware of the latest changes that we've made to the infrastructure, but at this point, essentially, like, yes, you could have the entire history of the chain available to prove just about anything that ever occurred. but I don't know if that is worth the price tag that they were asking. In reality, there's in the proof server, we've implemented a feature now that allows pruning of data that's no longer required. So there's no, it's actually very light now. You don't have to keep all of that past history. And if you, even if you were to keep all of that past history, it's kind of, I don't know like how valuable that is. To me, that would seem a little bit expensive for just a pure infrastructure setup. So I would personally be very comfortable with the option 1, but I think we're overpaying for option 2 and 3. Maybe not in terms of what it would cost them, but more in terms of what benefits it would bring the coalition to support all of this as a public good. I think it's pricey for the very marginal benefit it gives us.
Yeah, I think we need what's described. I have been optimistic that somebody within the Antelope community is going to build it. I know that, like you said, you've gotten proposals. I know the Void team has plans to build something like this and has a grant on Pomelo. I think we need it. I think option 1, I totally agree with you. No, option 1 is reasonable for all the upfront work. And then, the monthly cost, I suppose, is just for hosting a website and kind of whatever code is needed to do the proofs automatically on the target chain, which seems reasonable. My only hesitation is, I'd like to see if something like this comes out organically, maybe even through the Pomelo work that Void's doing. Because it's not something necessarily you need redundancy for. You really just need one that does it well. So.
For context on Void, by the way, they've also applied through the grant framework for what they call Antelope Firewall, which is to be deployed on all 4 chains, which we've just recently, I believe as yesterday morning, approved level 1. So in our grant framework process, there are 2 levels. The first level is more the business, general high level type of approval within the board. And the second one is the technical. So we just approved, I'm not even sure if they're aware, so they may find out through listening to this call because it's fresh off the press. We've just approved funding Void for something what they call Antelope Firewall, which is different than this. You're right that they did submit for Antelope Portal within Pomelo. Realistically, though, Pomelo does not give you anywhere the level of funding that is being asked here. Even if you do incredibly well. I believe for this season, because there's a cap on how much matching you can get, the maximum you could potentially get is a match of 17K with no ongoing, plus whatever it is you receive directly. So still very different. I don't believe it's going to be at all the same type of product. We can rely obviously on Pomelo. I mean, that's a cost that we bear that you guys don't bear, obviously. I don't think we're going to get the same product. I don't think that's the same thing at all that is being proposed here.
Right. And I haven't been paying too close attention. I just know that when I talked with them, they described somewhat what this is, a portal that does IBC, and it may not even be what they applied for grants or Pomelo, and it's more just a product that they were sharing that they wanted to build. And then they had some more additional pay for functionality that people might want on top of it. So, and I'm not disputing that the option A is a reasonable one for what we need. I was just pointing out organically, there might be other things that come.
I've personally funded and donated to the Pomelo one, for example. Yes.
So
I think one of them will happen perhaps organically, like you said, either through Pomelo with Void. I don't know whether or not it'll happen as well or as quickly, because obviously the funding is a key part of that. Whereas this, I mean, if we were to entertain this idea, then it would happen. There's no question that it would be a product that we would then have, because we would have commissioned it essentially.
Yeah.
So it depends on, is this important? Is this something that we want? Is this something we want to entertain? I don't know.
My thoughts are, in general, I think we should, for RFPs, we should stick with our predetermined priorities. However, this does strike me as something that's an extension of IBC, and so I think it's reasonable to consider it. The piece that I think is most needed is that initial development work. I would want to obviously see, it's worth looking into what that 53K gets us. I also want to better understand what the 20,000 plus a year in maintenance would bring us, because it potentially, that's something that, those are costs that each chain could bear themselves, unless, depending on how that's designed. So I just want to understand that. I think the other things are really out of scope for anything that we need. But with the importance of IBC and the opportunity to accelerate any part that we can, I think it's worth looking at the preliminary proposal, and even though it's outside of what we've previously decided to work on during this period, and we should look at it, but I think we should look at it probably at the minimum viable amount of scope. Those are my general thoughts, not having read the whole thing yet.
I would also like to just add one thing. The first option that we presented, if there is a fixed monthly cost, their cost might actually vary quite a bit, because essentially what they're proposing to do is to automatically complete transactions, so pay for the verification costs, which are the most expensive in terms of network resources, CPU and net. So essentially, as the usage goes up, so will their bill paying these resources, and that works across. It's the same across all networks. There's going to be some function there, so it might be prudent, if we entertain that option, to also do a little bit of like analysis on what these costs would be, and work that out in the contract, so that there can be some like a range or something. It's just because otherwise if we don't plan for that, at some point they might just be overwhelmed by the fees, and we're going to be like, guys, can't do that anymore, it's costing us too much. So it's something that we should take into account.
I'm going to jump in, and it seems like there's consensus around this being a valid idea for what the IBC project needs. And from a long-term perspective, I would say it is not. These operations are things that you're not going to go to a central hub to do. It should be baked into whatever the interface you're using typically is, whether that's the Wax Cloud wallet or whether that's the TELOS wallet or whatever you're using. That's where this functionality ultimately belongs. It should be a part of the to field when you're sending a transaction. And that's in what I've been imagining of all of this. And I was just talking to Shaq about it yesterday. That will be part of the SDKs that you're using to build whatever wallet it is that the users are using. That's where the IBC transaction and proofs will be facilitated, and it will be just part of the other user interfaces. So I guess as a point in kind of playing devil's advocate here is, sure, having a central hub that people can go to right now is a great stepping stone, but long term, I don't see that as the future of IBC transactions in the user experience.
Yeah, granted, and I think that my interest is more in seeing that the software be developed and open sourced, so that it can be applied in multiple places in multiple ways. I do think, though, that one thing you're talking about is the usage of this, but I think for the auditing of it, for record keeping and whatnot, there may be a value in having a hub for looking at how these monies flow. across chains without having to go from one block explorer to another to another.
But we already have, about to make that.
Oh, you have that. Okay. It's you can't keep up on it. It's doing so much. It's hard to keep up on every last thing. So
I think
if you don't have that, then
another thing that maybe is missing here, and I know we have it on the agenda to discuss the USDT being added as like a first class, but I think we've pretty much well established that that would be the only additional first class that all the 4 coalition networks are going to support on the formal namespace and everything, and the formal registry that we already have so far, right? So for all of the other tokens that may move around with IBC, a community ran registry, some sort of support for apps that maybe don't know how to set up the IBC, but would be a great token to be moved around our networks. Like that type of thing, I think is also an important catalyst towards, IBC and really realizing the value it can bring us. So that's not here. And I think that is something that I brought up with Boyd as being kind of a gap that we're going to have that somebody can tackle. Of course, there's all the questions of how do you decide which one's listed, which one's not. That's something we don't want to deal with at the network level. But there's a lot of apps that I'm sure would love to move things around the networks and have some sort of established process for getting the contracts deployed, getting added to some registry so it shows up in some UI that users are familiar with using and can bridge the tokens with. So that's also something, whether it's in this one or done organically, that we might want to encourage happening.
yeah, the level one that should occur before we dive too deep into any of this is to get maybe a bullet list of exactly what particular features would be added, and then we can compare those against things like the SDK or like Wharf or like or where IBC currently stands, the development, and just like check off the things that we already have. Like, let's not buy these things twice, right?
That bullet point list, if I understand correctly, is what I posted in the core chat.
Okay, great. I saw it, but obviously we're doing this meeting, so
Yeah. I don't think there was any expectation for us to come to consensus or anything like that. It was more so, should we entertain? Should we say sorry, but no? I mean, that is what I guess I'm trying to get out of this. What should I go back to them? And maybe that, we need more time to talk about this, think about this. That's also okay.
Yeah. I think a good next action. I think first of all, it's great that you brought this up. I'm glad you did. I think it's interesting to hear about. And I think that the next action step, now that you've posted that, would be for anyone, but particularly Guillaume and Aaron, to go through and say,
Guillaume and him work with each other as far as I can tell. Guillaume seemed to be aware of this because that's how the message starts. So okay, maybe more Aaron in this case.
I guess I'd just like to understand how these where this overlaps things we already have, where it provides new and unique functionality.
So shall we just let this sit then for a period of time and see if, and maybe touch upon this subject, keep it for next week and see if there's any movement? Would that be acceptable to all?
Makes sense.
Yeah, we could even conclude it as a minor topic on the Monday meeting if we need to dive any deeper than this.
In terms of Monday, basically, Jesse, what you're bringing up, but I'm bringing up before you ask me again, the question of USDT, IBC. I did not get a chance to get the information that I was looking to get to be able to answer today, but I should have what I'm looking for to bring up next Monday during our Monday call. Speaking of Monday.
Sounds good. I won't ask you again.
No, it's okay. You should ask me again. I'm just preempting you asking me. That's what I'm saying.
I mean on this call. I'll ask you again after.
Sounds good. I do have information for you. I need to round up a little bit more before I'm ready to actually present.
Okay.
Okay, so we are done with this item for this week, and we will revisit it again next week. I'll leave it on the agenda. So do we want to go through the in progress items one by one and get status? That normally what we do during the call? P2P optimized transaction propagation looks like we voted on this, so I'm not sure why this is still in progress. It just means that it's
So
being,
this is just Jeff is keeping it for if ever there's any updates to give in regards to OCI and what they've been working on / the food down team. But if you're not aware of the progress, then I guess we can skip this item.
right. RAM limitation fixes. Bart is not on the call, and I'm also not aware of any updates to this one. So we can skip that. P2P peer discovery, that is actually the Udon team. I think the optimized transaction is the...
You're right.
So I do not have an update on this. Instant finality, IBC approvers, champions, definition status report, stand up. This is old. Wow, it has Kirsten's name on it. We really go through these items. So maybe this came up again last week.
These are just typically updates on the progress and everything. At least that's how we've been essentially going about it lately.
Looks like January 19th was the last update. Any update, Yo?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if Jeff has been writing down notes, because all of these updates typically are also shared in the cards that Adam is compiling on a weekly basis. So as we stand right now, there's a few more milestones that are essentially pending review. So we have for IBC, we have the monitoring tools, so that's ready for review. I believe that Adam and I will have another call today, towards the end of the day or maybe tomorrow. And I was suggesting that he would do the review because it's a pretty easy one. It's very objective. It's gonna compare what the API says and compare what Blocks says, and you can see it live. Make sure the tally matches. So that's what we discussed as the review process for milestone number 5, which is monitoring tools. Then on IBC, we also have, on Finality, we also have 2 milestones. There's one more on IBC that we're also very close from finishing, which is milestone number 8.
In general, as long as it's technically accurate.
Yep.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, no, I was going to say milestone number 8 is almost done as well. I believe we should be ready for review next week. And then we also have 2 more milestones on the instant finality side that are also, one is pending review from AREG, and the other one should also be completed very shortly. So yeah, at this point we have like 4 or 5 milestones that are all those data just need to be reviewed or to be the work needs to be done. So that's my update.
Thank you.
And just on that, it kind of we touched upon this during the review meeting last Monday. It was one of the items that you had brought up, Guillaume, in terms of when we do assign work, how do we ensure that the items are done? And right now there's clearly some pain points there. Bart's not here, but we do have a proposal on how to address that in the future. That is quite standard in the industry. We just didn't do it ourselves when we propose these. That actually puts all the burden on, in this case, you guys, when you're submitting the proposal, to actually indicate how you're going to close that loop on if the milestones are done, so that the people reviewing essentially are not doing anything, because the tool that you're providing or whatever it is you're doing gives a yay or nay, but that was already baked in, which then means that there's typically a higher cost on your end, so that would be factored in when you make your pitch in the beginning, but that there's no question, you're not delaying on anybody, you're not relying on anybody on the other end, because you're providing the proof that that milestone is done, is technically accurate, etc., because that is part of the what you're going to build to showcase that thing is actually delivered.
Yeah, no, I agree. And in retrospect, I would have spent more time working on this. That would have been great.
The other suggestion is typically we would break that down into smaller pieces. But in our case, that's not really realistic, right? So going back for an RFP every 2 months is not really realistic due to the administrative burden of doing so, even just writing the RFP itself. So we are threading in that kind of dual world of, we don't want to create too much administrative burden, but we also want to address obviously the current pain points that we're seeing. And we're not just seeing with IBC, we're also seeing, for example, with WARF. But there are ways to overcome this, and it should be prioritized. And we've got some really good ideas. That part has really got good ideas for this. And all that to say, in the future, ideally, we won't need to do this anymore. It'll be pretty simple.
Okay. Wallet SDK approvers, champions, definitions, status report, stand up. This is probably you, Aaron.
Yep. We had our call again yesterday. Since even then, the Anchor plugin is released in its first state. So that's now in a functional state. There's a Kleos wallet plugin now. We have started showing off some of the designs on yesterday's call, which are starting to be implemented. Hopefully we'll have those available soon. We are closing in on the next 2 milestones that are both related to the session kit. It's in a very functional state, although the design is, like I said, still heavily undergoing construction. And we're starting to seek projects to actually do integrations with it as kind of a stepping stone for other applications. I earlier this week started the first one, and it was the Open Block Explorer that TELOS has been working on. So there's a pull request out there now on that project that I did that pulls UAL out and puts WRF in and creates that base level functionality. So that way, projects who want to make this leap won't be starting from scratch. And we talked about this a little bit and the reasoning behind it and everything on the call yesterday as well. So we're seeking projects. It's a really good, it's a way for us to dog food the project and make sure it works in things that are not our own. So yeah, that's where we're at. Things are moving along well. Hopefully the scorecard will start reflecting this soon, and we'll start seeing apps in the wild in the very near future.
Excellent. Thank you. Antler CDT, I don't have any updates on that. The Ledger app, we have another call with them coming up. We now have an internal product manager, Brian Hazard, assigned to doing this. So in addition to Adam as a project manager, Brian Hazard is now the product manager working with Eric Passmore. Again, one of the issues is Passmore is on the West Coast, and Thomas Julian, who's the product guy from Ledger, is in France, and getting a time that works for both of them is tricky. So we're trying to figure out how to bridge that, but it's now been handed off at a deeper level that Brian can probably manage it better than I was doing. We have continued to make progress, but no concrete update of, yes, we know how to split the app into the head app and the tail app. I did get him to say he was going to work on his test net. This Thomas Julian said this, and make a Antelope entry that has a EOS-WAXP-TELOS- I'm not sure if it's UX. Is it UXP? The ticker symbol for UX?
UTX.
UTX, sorry. So he said, yeah, he said, that looks kind of ugly. Let me see if it fits into our tools and all that. So he was going to test that because it would make it where searching would work better when people are trying to pull it up in the app marketplace and all that stuff. So we're trying every angle. We're looking at, can we make it where it has just the small head app and the one shared body app, and also how to get the overall Antelope app, which is the same binary, just to where it fits into their app marketplace because of the token thing. So we're working on all of those in parallel, and hopefully we'll know more after we have this next call with Thomas. He went dark for a little while, and it turned out he was on vacation, which is odd because it's not August in France yet. That was a joke. So that looks like the entire agenda for today that I can see, unless anyone else has any other action items.
What is there any vacation in France?
Douglas,
I'm going to shut up.
Douglas, did you have something?
I was just going to ask if there's anything that we should say briefly about what our meeting Monday was about, just to generally give people a general characterization of it.
Yeah, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
We went in a boxing whatever ring and we dished it out for an hour.
It was actually
No, go for it. Go for it, Douglas. Sorry.
no, please. But I would just lead that off by saying it grew out of discussions we'd had previously about the deceptively simple topic of how do we all share cost, and what came out of that was we do need ways to make sure that there's long-term sustainability amongst the coalition, so that everybody feels like they are getting something that's worth what they're putting in. And Lucas, thank you. You took that on to lead that, and you did a great job in leading that meeting and facilitating that. I felt like I was at a corporate retreat and we were, filling out the whiteboard. What each chain listed the things that they thought would be good to continue doing, what we should perhaps consider start doing, and what maybe anything we were doing that we should stop. I don't think anyone had anything of all the chains had anything we should stop. We talked about a lot of stuff. We don't need to go into it, but I think it was very good. There were two things that came out of it that we thought were worth putting some time into over the next month or quarter or whatever. That's an overview of what happened. Lucas, do you want to give us any additional things that you thought were important?
Yeah, I'm actually going to, let me see if I can find this document that we're looking at all together. There are a couple of action items that came out of it. So I think we prioritized, discussion on technical community development and, working as a little group together. So Jesse and I were going to have that discussion to kick it off. And then also in the same vein, I guess, we prioritized working together as a coalition to have a coordinated, marketing effort for the Antelope chain and all the coalition initiatives. So we're going to have that discussion kick off also, and then the third one was a discussion of this Supra token and Antelope BC concept, which we are also going to kick off. So that's kind of the next three action items that came out of this discussion that we're going to tackle over the next quarter.
Yep. And we also we already jumped into it because everybody found a time to get together on another around the block call, which went great today, and that will be coming out soon. And we're going to do those monthly. So I think that is at least a small step towards more unified communications. And by the way, it was awesome, guys. You guys are so awesome. Thanks for doing that. It's really cool.
Oh man, you are so awesome.
No, you're awesome.
What you guys don't get to see is that Douglas, every time we've recorded one of those, is good after we start. But for that first intro, we redo the intro like 5-10 times every single time. And it's hilarious. It makes me laugh every time, Doug.
Yeah.
It's awesome.
Well, I just kind of need to get a little momentum, you know. I did those corporate videos for Microsoft and Amazon and stuff like that so long that it's just like, you know, I got no problem.
You should release our
Good time.
bloopers, man.
I know. That's what I'm thinking. It's like, first
Release blooper reel.
Okay. That will be fun.
Forget
At the
this.
end of the year. We'll end of the year episode we'll do a little blooper reel. That's for sure.
And I guess on that topic, not of bloopers, but of the meeting that we held, we also agreed that we're going to be holding that type of meeting, that type of discussion on a recurring basis too. So we're already meeting on the Mondays. So every, I guess, 3 or 4 Mondays will be this call, either quarterly or monthly, where we go back and reassess what we've been doing as we just did in the format that we just did, which I think is really great.
Awesome. Well, I feel like that covers it, and great meeting, guys.
Well, if there's no other items, thank you all very much, and we'll talk on Monday then.
All right.
Good job,
Okay.
guys.
Thanks for facilitating.
Ted.
Thanks, everybody.
Doing my best here.
You're doing great.